All right, good evening, class. First thing we're going to do is take some notes on absolute value. So please take out your notebooks. Go ahead and pause the video. So let's take a look at the definition of absolute value. Here we have the absolute value, that's what these symbols stand for, of some expression, in this case ax plus b. Now, the expression inside the absolute value could be negative, a negative number, hence the negative on the expression, or it could be a positive number. Okay, it could be negative if ax plus b is less than 0. Or it could be positive if ax plus b is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so I know this might seem confusing, but it'll make more sense as we go through this. Therefore, when solving an absolute value equation, we would take the expression, the negative expression, and set it equal to c, and then we would take the positive expression and set that equal to c as well. The geometric interpretation of absolute value of x, and here's the symbol, absolute value of x, is the distance from the number x to 0 on a number line. And remember, distance will represent a positive number at this time. So let's take a look at an example. If you'll have your video notes handy, remember you can pause these video notes at any time if I go too fast. So, based on our definition of absolute value, the first thing we would do here is we would do the negative of the expression. So we would have the negative x, and we would set that equal to our value, which in this case is 4. That would be one equation. Or we would take the positive expression, which would be just x, and set that equal to our value, which is 4. So now we would solve both equations. In this case, we would divide both sides by -1, and x would equal -4. So I'm going to go straight to our answer here. Our answer is going to be x equals 4 and x equals -4. So a dot at -4 and a dot at +4. And there's your graphical representation of our answer. Okay? Number 2, I'm not really going to do the preliminary. We're just going to go ahead and use the definition and solve, and then graph our answer here. Okay? So, again, we have an expression inside the absolute value. Looking at our definition, that expression, we want to set up one equation where that expression is negative. Okay, and set that equal to the value. And then we want to set up another equation where that expression is positive and set that equal to the value. Okay, so first, the negative. And then the positive. And what we want to do is we want to solve both of these for x, and that's going to give us our answer. Now, take a look at how I wrote these and how it compares to our notes. Okay? Now, first thing I would do here is this is a -1 on the front. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply both sides by -1. to get rid of it. Okay, because a negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. So we're going to have 3x plus 4 equals negative 10. And then solving for x, subtract the 4 on both sides. And then divide by 3. So one of our solutions is going to be negative 14/3. Okay, solving the other one. Hopefully you remember your steps for solving. We undo adding and subtracting first. Then we undo multiplying and dividing. And we have our other solution. So there are your two solutions for number 2. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and try number 3. In class tomorrow, I will check to see if you have it correct. So turn the page. Now we have absolute value inequalities. Okay, same procedure applies here for number 4 when dealing with inequalities. The rule that you have to remember, very important rule, is that when you multiply or divide by a negative, the inequality switches directions. So when multiply or divide by a negative, the inequality switches direction. So less than becomes a greater than. Greater than becomes a less than. Okay, so again, using our definition, the expression inside the absolute value could either be positive or negative in order to come out with this number here. So we're going to start off with a negative, and that's going to be less than or equal to 8. Okay, or could be positive. And so we solve both of these inequalities. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the negative 1 in the front by multiplying both sides by negative 1. So multiplying, actually I'm just going to go ahead and divide by negative 1. Does the same thing. Okay, so those cancel. Notice the inequality changes because I divided by a negative. Adding 4 on both sides. Dividing by 3. Okay, so x is greater than or equal to negative 4/3. So we're going to put negative 4/3 here. We're going to put a closed dot because of the equal sign. Okay, solving the other one. Adding the 4. 3x is less than or equal to 12. Dividing by 3. X is less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 4 on here. Now, because of the x is greater than, we're shading to the right. And x is less than 4, so we're shading to the left. So, closed dot on both sides for the equal sign, and shading in between. Okay, number 5. Same procedure. The value inside the absolute value could be negative. Or it could be positive. Okay, then we solve both inequalities. So getting rid of my negative 1, I'm going to go ahead and, because it's just easier to write divide by negative 1, I'm just just going to go ahead and do it that way instead of multiplying by -1, which you could do as well. We're going to have 6 minus 2x divide by -1, so notice the inequality switches directions. Gives us -14. Okay, subtracting the 6, we get -20. Okay, dividing by -2. Okay, got to remember we're dividing by negative, so our inequality is going to switch symbols. Switch sign. So it's going to go from a less than to a greater than, and that's 10. So we're going to have 10 out here. It says x is greater than 10, and I made a mistake. No equal sign, so we want to open dot because we're not including 10 in the solution, but all numbers greater than 10 are in the solution set. Okay, subtract the 6 from both sides. So we have -2x is greater than 8. Divide by the -2. We get x. Switch the inequality. Y. Divide by negative. X is less than -4. So I'm going to put a -4 over here. No equal sign. So open dot. It's less than. The solution is less than -4, so we shade to the left. Alright, so number 6 is yours. Be prepared for a video quiz tomorrow. Study your notes, and I'll see you tomorrow.